Starfield is an absolutely huge game, and what you choose when creating your character will really affect your early game experience. There are many backgrounds with skills and then traits to consider, so let's lay it all out. I won't go too much into creating the look of your character as this is massively subjective, but my advice on it would be to pick the closest to what you're after in the biometric ID section, then move to body. There aren't many options when it comes to body, but that also means it's incredibly simple and quick to sort. The face is far more detailed. Picking the general look will really help with your starting point. As you work through these different options, many of them will have the ability to refine, and some of these allow for some serious detail. In particular, something I think many will gloss over is the blending. Blending allows you to blend the other options into the current, so if it allows you to choose from 10 different eyes, you can then blend one of those options with different percentages of the others. Going through each one to max will give you a good idea of whether it takes you in the direction you want to go. Next is background, which is the second most functionally important part of this character creation. Background will set your starting skills. While these are important, it's good to know that this is a starting point more than a class. This will just give you a rank in a skill. In the long term of the game, this is not that big of a deal, and it won't lock you into anything. If you want to play it with a bit of roleplay towards your character choices, that may be the most important aspect of which you choose, in which case read through the basic description for the options, as there are rare opportunities for unique dialogue related to the background you choose. Otherwise, there are some skills that are superior to others for your early game, and I'm going to rank them with that in mind. Fitness is a very broad and all-round skill. It will increase your available oxygen by 10%. Oxygen is the all-consuming bottleneck resource of Starfield, determining how long you can sprint, last in some environments, and move at all when over-encumbered. Due to this as a starting skill, I would rank it as S. This is not a skill you'll regret getting. It is a passive increase that is useful for your entire play and matches all playstyles. Next is boxing. This is a playstyle specific skill. It will be extremely useful for anyone intending to fight unarmed, but only for those people. As such, it's a C tier as a starting choice, as you likely don't know exactly how you want to handle combat before you've even played. The piloting skill gives you great control of your ship. Later ranks also give you the ability to fly bigger class ships, making this a skill most will want eventually. Piloting is a very useful and largely but not entirely universal skill. As such, it's a high A, as not everyone will care about space combat and the ship aspect. Gastronomy is both a high specialised skill but also a skill that would be useful for everyone. However, not so useful right away when you lack resources to properly utilise it. If you want to craft your own food to get better buffs, including experience and so forth, this is a skill you need, including its later ranks. Due to its lesser use right in the beginning, I think this is a B tier. Pistol certification is another skill like boxing. It buffs a specific combat preference. This time of course being pistols. If your roleplay includes Space Cowboy, this could certainly fit, but I'd recommend playing with a few different weapon types before committing to a specific one. C tier. Stealth is another playstyle specific, but it's more universal than committing to a specific weapon type. Sometimes stealth can be a good impulse option, and without the skill it's extremely difficult to do stealth at all, as the skill itself is required to gain that visual bar, informing you whether anyone can see you or is even somewhat aware of the presence of another. B tier. The medicine skill may imply from its name that it will allow you to craft medical items, but this specific skill is just for boosting the effects of those items. Very universal, you will likely use a lot of these items during your play, though as it is a fairly small buff of only 10% of 3 specific health items and not other buffs, I would rank this as A. You won't regret it, but it's not peak. Persuasion is S tier. This is a Bethesda game. Dialogue is huge, and skills related to persuasion are some of the most useful total. The only reason you wouldn't want this skill is if you intend to intimidate instead of persuade and start fights at every opportunity. If your roleplay is antagonistic, then this is not for you. For most, this is peak. Lasers is another weapon-specific buff, and so an automatic C tier due to its playstyle locking before any combat has been had. Shotgun certification is the same. Shotguns are some of my favourite weapons in Starfield, but I only know that as I played with multiple weapon types. Geology is a tricky skill to rank. It will be extremely useful for specific people, and many will already know before playing whether they wish to play in that way. If you like exploring and crafting, this is a top tier skill for you, giving you more and better resources from minerals and flora nodes on planets. Be aware that if you like crafting but not planetary exploration, buying resources from vendors is an option a lot of the time, in which case this is less ideal for you. Overall, I think this is A tier. Weightlifting gives you extra carry weight. Encumbrance in Starfield is more of a bane than any other Bethesda game. When you're over-encumbered, simply walking will use your oxygen. The more weight, the more it uses, causing you to stop and wait for it to recharge before continuing on. And if you plan on picking up all items that are worth a good amount in your travels, like the loot goblin eye and many others are, this will be invaluable. S tier. Scavenging skill is a bonus, but it's pretty weak. You'll find extra credits and this will certainly build up, but in comparison to other skills, it is quite weak. Loot is not rare in Starfield. C tier. Astrodynamics sounds cool, but all it does is boost your grav jump range and in later ranks fuel cost. This is not at all worth it in my mind, especially early game. D tier. Dueling is another of those weapon-specific skills, a very good skill if you intend to focus on melee, but not ideal to lock you in your combat before you play. C tier. Wellness increases your maximum health by 10%. This is universal passive buff. Unless you only intend to fight an assassin that never takes damage, this will be useful, and so S tier, more useful than medicine, similar to fitness. Ballistics is a more universal version of a specific weapon type skill. As such, it's B tier, so while useful to more, it's still only useful for specific weapon types. Security allows you to hack advanced locks. The later ranks allow expert and master locks to be attempted, as well as some extra lock-picking features. Most locks in this game are above novice, and those doors and chests will often hide incredibly valuable loot and useful items. This is without a doubt S tier, even as a starting skill. The targeting control systems skill allows you to target specific systems of another ship for use in combat, allowing you to take out their engines, weapons, shields or grav drive with ease in what is essentially space combat VATS. This is useful from very early on, though not everyone will care about space combat past what they are forced into, so A tier. Commerce sounds like a very good skill. You can buy for 5% less and sell for 10% more. However, you will find the biggest bottleneck in this being the limited available funds of the vendors. Most of your gear other than med packs will also likely be looted, not purchased, though purchasing resources is very valid. You can also get around the vendors' limited funds by waiting for their stock to refresh, but still, while useful, I think it's a pretty weak skill. D tier. Surveying is a very niche skill. Exploration and scanning is a big part of the game, but it's largely optional and not suited for all players. I would suggest playing a bit before deciding whether to pick up this skill, unless you are a No Man's Sky vet who knows what he likes. C tier. Boost pack training. This allows you to basically use a jetpack, and may surprise you that I rank it as S tier. You'll be able to bunny hop more effectively on low gravity worlds, which is both fun and time saving. An offshoot of this is aid when you're over encumbered. As while jetpacking will use your oxygen when over encumbered, if moving in any direction but up, it uses walking speed oxygen. So utilising sprint to gather inertia and then jetpacking will speed your loot goblin trot up a fair bit. Lastly is the convenience of verticality. It's not quite the marsupial mutation from Fallout 76, but it's pretty useful for getting around and bypassing many stairs and the like. Theft is one of the most divisive skills. It's either incredibly good or completely useless, and it all depends on how you want to play. Do you want to pickpocket people or not? As for those it's good for, it's very good, and you likely already know whether you want to play on the wrong side of the law or not. Research methods is a must for any who intend to craft, and crafting is pretty big in this game. You can craft weapon mods, food, medicines, buff items, building parts and more. This skill doesn't open up more, but reduces crafting and research costs. And in the beginning, when you have few materials to use, this can be very helpful. If everyone liked to craft, this would be S tier, but as not, it's A. Ballistic weapon systems boost the damage of your ship's ballistic weapons. It also makes it cheaper to use in that space VATS I mentioned before. This is good, but it's so specific. As such, I have to rank it as C tier. With all of this in mind, I personally chose Industrial, as it fits me to a T both role-playing skill-wise. If you like fancy dialogue options to talk your way into or out of anything, you like finding epic loot behind tricky locks and love yourself a bit of crafting, this is about the most perfect background to start with. However, if you wish to be a bit of a space renegade who takes what they want and can't be stopped by pesky technology, then Cyber Runner is my other top pick, allowing you to stealth, get past those pesky locks, and pillage the pockets of the spacefaring. Regardless of all this, none of these choices will lock you in. You may find you somewhat wasted a skill point or two, but that's not a big deal in the long term. Levels are fairly slow to gain in Starfield, but you'll get there. Lastly are traits. Traits are arguably the most important choice in the beginning, as these cannot be taken back or gained afterward in any other way. Traits can add some really interesting aspects to your experience. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory, but others need a little extra. First of all is Dream Home. This gives you a huge building on a peaceful world. It looks really nice, but there is a catch. Your mortgage is 125,000 credits. This will take quite a few hours of play to get together, and until you pay it off, you'll need to pay 500 credits per week to use the base. However, if you don't actually use it, you don't need to pay the 500 credit interest payment. You pay this fee at the door to the resident in order to enter it, and paying the fee will essentially unlock it for you for a week. 500 credits is also not that much. You also don't remotely need this home. There are options later in the game, as well as a fully functional place for you to use. But if you like the extra, it's a unique spot for you to build your ultimate base. Empath is a super interesting one, but actions your companion likes and dislikes aren't in every conversation you ever have. There are many opportunities for this in the game dialogue, but you shouldn't consider this as a constant buff or debuff, just an interesting way to make that connection with your companion have more of an effect on your gameplay. Freestar Collective, Neon Street Rat, Raised Enlightened, Raised Universal, Serpent's Embrace, and United Colonist Native are all faction or religion traits. The issue with these is that you can't make anything but a blind decision on these for your first playthrough, and me explaining them all would include a lot of spoilers. They will no doubt add some interesting things to your playthrough, helping to make it more unique for you. In a way, it's actually quite a cool way to go about it. A lot of people of faith, or those devoted to their culture, are born into it. They didn't choose it knowing what they were in for, and this reflects that in some sense. Hero Worshipped. This one, good lord. It's both as amazing and horribly annoying as it describes. I knew what I was getting into, and I still chose it as it's a really interesting option. This dude though, so very annoying. Kid stuff is also one of the more interesting. It gives your character parents you can visit and have extra dialogue and such with. It's more involved than I expected it to be, though my expectations were exceedingly low. Wanted is also one of the top picks, adding random ambushes to your experience as well as what Fallout 76 players would know as a sort of bloodied effect that boosts your damage as your health gets low. Starfield has really done well with giving you a custom start to your playthrough while also adding some serious replayability. Choosing something you'll sort of regret later really won't ruin your playthrough. The traits can be very interesting and add some great elements to your play, but they aren't the end all, and everything else is merely a starting point that you can outgrow to mould your character into whatever you want. So don't get too hung up on it. Did you disagree on my skill takes for early game? More coming for Starfield? Have a great day.